Good morning, CMSW, and welcome to our 2020 Veterans Day program.
Not even a global pandemic stops CMSW from recognizing the veterans who proudly serve our country.
Veterans Day is always held on November 11th. It's a celebration to honor our veterans for their patriotism, love of a country, and willingness to sacrifice for the common good.
Today, we will start our program with veterans from Chaska VFW. They came to school October 30th to tape a flag raising and enact a 3-volley rifle salute.
Both of these events are symbolic, but especially symbolic for Veterans Day. The flag raising honors all of our veterans on their special day.
And the 3-volley salute honors veterans who have died. This tradition comes from traditional battle ceasefires, where each side would clear the dead.
The firing of the 3 volleys indicated the dead were cleared from the battlefield and properly cared for.
Lastly, you will be hearing 8th graders Ava Jose and Olivia Surt playing taps. This variation of the bugle call was originally played during the Civil War.
For Civil War soldiers, it meant lights out. Now it has become a way to honor service members at funerals to acknowledge them for extinguishing of a life.
And today, we play it at Veterans Day ceremonies to honor armed service members who have passed away.
Our first guest today is veteran Maria Maldonaldo, who served in the U.S. Air Force for 29 years. During that time, she completed 13 overseas deployments, including the Gulf War, Iraq Freedom, and Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan.
Good morning. My name is Maria Maldonado. I am retired from the United States Air Force. I served for almost 30 years. My rank, this wonderful thing right here, is Chief Master Sergeant, which in the Air Force is E9. That is the highest rank that an enlisted person can obtain. I am originally from Puerto Rico. I joined the Air Force. Actually, I was going to college, and I couldn't really afford to continue in college, so I went into the Air National Guard. I've always was interested in the Air Force. I thought it was, a way to serve my country. At the time, I was not completely fluent in English, but I could read and write in English very well, sometimes better than some of my counterparts. Anyway, I went into basic training. I chose electrical power production, which is a career field that I actually stayed most of my enlisted career. An electrical power production specialist, his or her job is to work on power plants, generating electricity, whether it's fixed locations or mobile. And during any conflict, most of the time, well, actually all the time, you're going to need power. So they need electrical power production specialists to produce that power. In addition to producing power, we had the honor of working on aircraft arresting systems. What an arresting system is the barrier that you see on the Navy planes, on the Navy carriers, where if the plane needs to stop, they have a hook and they grab onto that cable and it stops them. Well, on land, there's also that. And pretty much all the fighter planes have a hook. So any plane that has a hook, the base must have an arresting system to stop the plane. So that was another one of my duties. Again, I joined the Air Force because it was, always interests me. My uncle, who's still alive, he's almost 100 years old, and he was a World War II veteran, was my hero growing up. And that's pretty much why I joined. Best assignments, I don't know. All my assignments were really good. Particularly enjoyed Japan. I learned a lot about the Japanese culture. Germany, fantastic. The Azores was a little base. You could travel the entire island in less than 2 hours. It's a very little island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean between Newfoundland and Portugal and Spain. I really did not have a bad assignment. The opportunities, the learning opportunities, the education opportunities, traveling the world. Growing up, I never thought that I was going to be able to travel to all the places I did. After 9/11, or actually during the first Gulf War, I was stationed in Germany, and I went to a lot of places in Saudi, Egypt, Qatar, a lot of those places. I was in a combat communications group, and what we did was we would go to bare places like a desert, and we will go in, bring our equipment, and set up a base. That way we would be prepared for anything. So I was part of that. Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Provide Comfort, Northern Watch. There was so many. We went everywhere. One of the coolest assignments I had was with as support. The unit was called Deployment Cell, and it belonged to the United States Special Operations Command. And what we did was, it was a squadron, a group of 14 people, and we had different career fields, support career fields, and we supported special operations people. So we deployed wherever they went, we went. The coolest part was you had a special uniform that didn't have a rank. So you had this cool combat shorts. We were stationed in Florida and traveling the world. You had combat shorts, a T-shirt, a cool cap, and boots. And the main reason for that was to make sure that we could blend in with all the special ops people without having to worry about rank and having to wear certain things that they normally don't do as much. And it's not because they don't have to, it's because the nature of their jobs. I don't know. I mean, really, unless you have specific questions, I had many assignments, many deployments. A lot of the things were very cool. A lot of the things were sometimes scary, but a great career. Veterans Day is just, a lot of people confuse, and I can see why, because they confuse Memorial Day with Veterans Day. Memorial Day was created to honor all those that came before us that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Well, Veterans Day, which used to be called Armistice Day when they first started, it was to honor the living veterans, people that have served or continue to serve the United States Armed Forces. It's very special. We get a chance to see other people from other services, to honor them, to say thanks for their service, and still enjoy their presence among us. It's not about shopping. It's not about getting a day off. It's just a very special day. Do you have any specific questions at all? So, some of you are wondering, how was it to be a female in the Air Force back in the early 80s? So I will tell you, it was not easy. First of all, when I joined the Air National Guard, I was the first female in that career field. They had just started accepting females in the career field. A lot of the technical career fields and mechanical career fields were not open to females. So it was a little bit of an adjustment for the male population to realize, hey, we're going to have a girl working here, which is what they used to call us, a girl. I'm an airman. So it was different. Even though we went to the same technical school, even though we had the same skills and we were sometimes better than they were, they will put us in places in the shop where we were not, expected to do as many things, or what in their heads was, well, she's a woman, she should not be doing X, Y, Z. Anyway, so it was hard. It was every assignment you had to go in with a blank slate and go in and prove to the supervisors, to the male supervisors, that you indeed could do your job and that you were very qualified to do your job. So one example, when I was at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, I was working in a power plant, and for the most part, they would put me on the midnight shift, 11 to 7, because during those times there was no maintenance performed. So all I was doing was I was an operator, and I would take the readings every hour on the equipment and make sure that everything was working properly. But all the maintenance was done during the day. So after a couple of weeks and actually a couple of months of doing that, I went and spoke with my supervisor and I say, hey, I am as qualified, if not more qualified than some of my male counterparts, and I need to do my job. I'm not going to get any better at it if you don't let me work on the equipment. And so we went back and forth, and he gave me a task, and he said, if you can do this, you have to prove to me that you can do this. And I said, okay. So the task was to overhaul a small engine, a very small engine, nothing like what we do for the big generators in the power plant. But I figure, well, whatever it is that I need to do, I'm going to do it because I need to do my job. So I did the overhaul. It was a little engine. I did it in a couple of days. Life was good, and all of a sudden they took me off from the mid shift and put me on the day shift. It's where I could work like everybody else. So I proven myself, and it was good. Then they sent me, I got my assignment to the A source. It was a small power plant, and yet again, I'm stuck in the night shift, watching the generators run, and I will switch over the generators if it was time to switch them, and then somebody else will do the maintenance. So one night I said, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I went and switched the generator, did the maintenance, and when my supervisor came in at 6 o'clock in the morning, the next morning, he said, Airman Maldonado, you forgot to change the status of the generator. I said, no, I didn't. He goes, well, the maintenance has not been done. I said, yes, it has. He goes, who did it? I said, I did. So, again, had to prove myself. After that, I was part of the regular rotation, and everything was good. Went to Germany, same deal. Germany was even worse. They put me in the tool room. So my job was people that were doing their jobs will come to me with this little piece of plastic, and if they needed a special tool, they gave me that piece of plastic, I'll give them the tool, and they walk away. So I was spending 8 hours a day just doing that, which was insane. So I went and complained, and my supervisor said, well, Airman Maldonado, the guys can carry a 150-pound toolbox, and there's no way that you can do that. I was like, okay, if I can prove that I can do it, would you put me out on crew? And he said, yes. So thought about it for a couple minutes. I went to the welding area. I took all the tools out of my metal toolbox. It was very heavy. And I welded 4 wheels onto it. I tied a rope around at the handle. I put all the tools back in, and I dragged it to his office. And guess what? None of the guys could carry a 150-pound toolbox. That was kind of a silly thing to ask of anybody. But I dragged mine to his office, and he had to put me on crew. So as we went on, you might think that this is it is kind of a funny story now, but at the time, females were not allowed to do a lot of things. And when we finally were allowed to get those jobs, then we had to fight every single assignment. And every time you get assigned anywhere, prove yourself that you could do the job. As time went on, and more females joined the force, and more females stayed in, and more females stayed in to attain higher ranks, things were changing. And I'm glad to say that now, if you're a female and you are wanting to join any of the armed services, it is a great way to serve your nation. It is a great way to see the world. It's a great way to improve your education. And thanks to all the females that came before us and the ones from my generation, you can come into any of the armed services and be treated more as an equal than back in the 80s.
Next, we have a short video from Mr. Rogers, who interviewed his son Nick for us. Nick is a Lance Corporal in the U.S. Marines, and his specific job is Lad Gunner.
Hi there, my name is Mr. Rogers. I'm the Industrial Tech Engineering teacher here. And last August, my son decided to join the Marine Corps. He's gone through boot camp, he's gone through rifle training. He is currently stationed in North Carolina, and he is a LAD gunner, which stands for Low Altitude Air Defense. For the last 6 weeks, he's been in the desert, and he's basically been sleeping in a tent under a camouflage net. And I got a hold of him to get a recording about Veterans Day and what it means to him, and a little bit about what he is doing. So this little next clip will be a video of him and I talking and interviewing him. And then there's a few things on the gun he actually shoots at the end of the video. So happy Veterans Day, and thanks to all those that are serving.
All right, Nick, just wondering if you can explain a little bit about yourself and what your job is in the Marine Corps.
Okay, so I'm a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, 7212 Lad Gunner. Basically, I shoot down low-flying helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft, and then provide ground security occasionally.
Okay. And what made you get into the military, and what prepared you for the military?
Just something I always wanted to do. I always felt the need to serve. But what prepared me, I'd say, probably just working out. I played football and I wrestled in high school. That definitely helped. But just running on my own, working on my own, lifting.
All right. A lot of kids want to know what the food is like in the military.
The food isn't great. MREs definitely aren't great. MREs are the worst. Normal chow hall, it's like a school lunch, I'd compare it to. Nothing special.
All right. And then what does an MRE stand for? What is MRE?
A meal ready to eat.
Okay. And then last question, what does Veterans Day mean to you?
Just makes me remember what what I'm doing here, the reason I joined, all the veterans that have served before me. That it's just the reason I joined, I guess, to keep fighting for this great country.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Nick, and we appreciate your service.
Yep, thank you.
Come on now, it's right there. Let's go. Yup.
Our last guest today is Rick Daniels. He served in the Army from 1966 to 1969 and was stationed in the Vietnam in the Special Security Group. Currently, he is in the Chaska VFW Commander.
Hello, my name is Rich Daniels. I served in Vietnam in the United States Army in 1967 and 1968. I was drafted, which is conscription. Most of you have probably never heard of that. They drew us by lot, however. Unless you were an elected official or your parents had a lot of money, you were subject to be drafted, which put me in the Army, ended up doing training, and ended up in Vietnam. It wasn't pretty. War is never pretty. What was it like in Vietnam? Vietnam was dirty, smelly, hot. Went from monsoons to cold to heat. I can still smell today the smells that were there. Imagine rotten fish, wet grass, mud, just the smells of all that, along with creosote, diesel fuel, and burned things that were burned, a lot of different things that were burned. That smell all mixed together. Any whiff of a lot of that stuff will bring it back. My job in the war, I was in a special unit. It's called the Assistant Chief of Staff for Intelligence, Department of the Army, Special Security Group. We gathered, collated, and handed out intelligence. In other words, we took captured documents, prisoner interrogations, overflights with photos. Now it would be all satellites, but back then it was planes. Radio intercepts. Put it all together and dispense that information out to other units. Gathering the information was interesting at times. Vietnam itself, the average age of the soldier, the American soldier, was 19 and a half years old, which is what I was when I was there. Almost exactly. I got there in July, and in June I was 19 and a half. I came home, I was 20 years old. Not old enough to vote back then, because you had to be 21 to vote. But I was a sergeant, several medals and ribbons and all the awards and stuff. I was not old enough to be in a bar to drink alcoholic beverages, and I was not old enough to vote. But I had already fought in a war. Thank goodness times have changed a bit. Afterward, I did not tell anybody I had been in the Army, much less in Vietnam. Most people didn't even know I had been gone for a couple of years. We were denigrated. made to look like either, well, we were called baby killers. People didn't want to associate with us, so we didn't advertise that we'd been there. Again, times have changed. Now everybody is thanked and appreciated and honored. Which brings us to Veterans Day. Veterans Day and Memorial Day are 2 days during the year where veterans are officially remembered. We have ceremonies, we have parades, and people thank you, and there's great speeches and flags, and which is wonderful. And it makes the rest of our country remember, at least for a day, or half a day if they're going out to do cookouts and visit and enjoy the day off. Veterans Day to me, I remember the friends that I lost in combat, other friends I knew that didn't come home that were killed. It also makes me remember my father, all my uncles, my 2 brothers, cousins, great uncles, all the way back from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War, to the Spanish-American War, the World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, and today. I've had relatives in every single war. 2 have died in combat, one in the Spanish-American War, one in the Civil War. The rest of us, every generation, we've served in the military. What else can I say? That's what we remember on Veterans Day. But I remember all the veterans on Veterans Day. We should do it every day. Working in the Pentagon was, again, very interesting. We were there. I was in the Pentagon during the 6-day Israeli war. I worked there during many crises around the country and around the world, and it was really interesting being in on the knowing what was going on around the world. People don't see that. You don't see it on the news today. The news is instant today, but most of it, you don't know what's really going on. Back then, we knew. I would like to say thank you to all my friends and relatives that have served in the military, whether it was the Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, whether in the reserves or active. I have many friends today who are much younger than myself, who have served, and we all appreciate each other. The generations, the gap in generations doesn't seem to matter. We gather together. Most of us you would not know we're veterans. We don't run around wearing, when we're doing something, maybe we'll wear a cap that says Vietnam veteran or Gulf War veteran or Iraq Afghani. But we have that bond, one veteran to another. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, male or female, old or young. When you're a veteran, you're a veteran. And we all appreciate each other, and we used to say we got your back. Today they say we got your 6. It means the same thing. We watch out for each other and help each other. That's what it means to be a veteran, because we have that one thing in common. We're not alike in politics. We're not alike in religion. Or we can argue with the best of them with each other. But nobody else can with us. It's like a family. I say thank you to the school for doing this. I would love to be talking to all of you like we normally do in the gym with the Veterans Day program. I think it's a wonderful program, but I'm glad we're able to at least get in front of you. So why should people honor veterans on Veterans Day and Memorial Day? It's not just the idea of being in the military, it's the sacrifice. Obviously the ultimate sacrifice, if somebody gives their life, defending the country or defending the other soldiers are with. But it's a sacrifice of years of your time. In my day, the draft was 2 years. The majority of us ended up serving 3 years or more. That takes a lot out of your life, 3 years. It's like, okay, middle school is 3 years, right? Just think if you're not there, what would you have missed? Many of us missed the opportunity to get ahead in business, to go to college, get married, have children, whatever you're going to do. Those 3 years take a big hunk out of your life. And some people have served 20 years or longer. When I got out of the Army, I didn't really know what to do. I knew I needed to go to school, so I went back to college for a year. Didn't work out really well the first time because I found I was then 21 going on 22, or I was 22, I guess. And all the other kids in my class were 19 and 20. And it's not a big gap in years, but it's a big gap in experience. I was bored. I was irritated by their attitudes. They were young and dumb, as we called it. I went back a few years later and was able to complete several degrees and go into teaching for a while. But Vietnam never left me during those years. I had a hard time adjusting to society around me. I got involved with drugs, running around not doing much, just having a good time. Luckily, my wife met me, and we've been married for 45 years now, but I survived because of that. Many veterans back then and today have a hard time adjusting. That's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest problems we have right now. Veteran suicides are very high, much higher than the civilian population. Adjusting and living with what happened is very hard for most veterans. You won't notice it, but it's on the inside. That's what we spend a lot of our time doing, is helping other veterans.
This concludes our special Veterans Day program for 2020. We would like to thank our guests, Maria Maldonaldo, Nick Rogers, and Rich Daniels, for being with us today.
We would also like to acknowledge Rich Daniels for making our opening flag raising ceremony and 3-volley salute possible.
Thanks also to Mr. Songer, who arranged for Olivia Sir and Ava Jost to play taps.
Our Veterans Day program is concluded, but all Westies can continue the momentum by doing their part.
Thank the veterans in your life.
Thank them for their service and for the example they set for all of us.
To those who have served and those who continue to serve, we thank you.